So welcome, everybody.
Awesome. Welcome. We'll also be recording this, so if you want to share out later on Instagram TV or any of those kinds of things, we'll definitely have some great opportunities to share all of this great content. So I'll definitely start by saying hello and welcome. My name is Ashlyn. I am the founder of Threaded and the Midwest coordinator for Fashion Revolution USA. We are really excited to be able to take our Shaping Fashion event that was supposed to be in person and make it virtual. We really appreciate all of the amazing speakers and panelists that were willing to give this grand experiment a try, especially these two lovely ladies as co-hosts of the Sustainable Style podcast, which is an incredible resource and fabulous and fun way to start digging into styling yourself sustainable, which is why we're here today. And so I wanted to just give this opportunity for these two ladies to take over this hour of time and really share their tips and tricks and all of the amazing things that they've been doing over a long period of time to really build in sustainability into their wardrobe. And so I'm just going to pass it over to both of them to introduce themselves, tell us a little bit about you, how you got to this space, and then I'll just let you take the reins from here. I'll be sure to manage the chat box, and so if you have any questions, please pop it into the Q&A box below, and I will just make sure that those are addressed and connected with Kaitlynn and Lauren throughout. So be sure to make sure that you put your questions down in that box. But I'll pass it over to Kaitlynn and Lauren. Please introduce yourselves. Let us know what to expect today.
Yeah, Lauren, why don't you start?
Sure. Katie and I have both been career stylists. I'm just going to put the mic closer because I feel like I'm going to sound better this way. But the 5-minute version, or I guess like the 5-second version, is that I was a data analyst. I became a stylist. And so my mind is always focused on like making things more efficient, better. And after a couple of seasons, I started noticing that the clothing that we made there seemed to be too much of it. We were making polo shirts every single season in every color of the rainbow. We were making garbage like flannel shirts in 10 different colorways with metallic thread. And I was like, who the fuck wants this? Like, to begin with. Sorry, I don't know if we're allowed to. We'll keep it clean from here on out. And so this is the point where I started exploring more about sustainable fashion, trying to learn about why it was important and what could be improved. And so Kaitlynn and I have come a really long way from there.
Yeah, so I hopped on the sustainability train when Lauren kind of got into it and sort of invited me on. So my journey is a little bit newer, but I definitely got a lot more interested in thrifting and secondhand shopping, especially because we started the podcast. And I felt like I needed to practice what I preach, but also because it's fun. So, love it. So this is going to be like a crash course in sustainability, which is like what it is, why it matters, how we can all incorporate sustainability into our wardrobes, not only to help the planet, but also to find our best style. So hopefully you guys get something out of this. But you can always like reach out to us. We're on Instagram. We're on our podcast. Listen to our stuff.
Yeah, follow us.
Yeah. So,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna jump in.
Oh yeah, bomb right in there.
Let's do it. So what is sustainability, guys? It refers to like improving the process of making, owning, and disposing or recycling of clothing to make it kinder to the environment, people, and animals. So right now, the life cycle of clothing, which starts from when a cotton seed is planted in the ground to the end of its life, when we either recycle it, whatever, we hopefully not just dump it. But it's ridden with toxic chemicals that's endangering workers, polluting waterways. The toxic waste is just filling up dumps and oceans. Scary.
Yeah, it's totally nuts. And under the umbrella of sustainability, there's practices that affect the environment, and then there's practices that affect humans and animals. So when we typically refer to human and animal friendly practices, we use the word ethical. And then when we're talking about environmentally friendly practices, we're talking sustainable.
Yes. So sustainable issues. Currently, the fashion production has a ton of sources of waste. You're seeing like pattern design that creates excessive scraps. There's over ordering of fabric, which is resulting in unused yardage. Sometimes that's resold as dead stock, but other times it's not. Not to mention they're creating so much. So there's so much excessive inventory. You've all seen like those huge clearance blowouts where there's like the same 15 shirts on sale. Okay, and then not to mention, okay, so excessive inventory, right? And then destruction of pieces that don't meet current standards, which is just an abomination. And recycling programs that will send recycled garments to overburdened secondhand markets in Africa or to landfills. There's also, on the consumer end, some excessive washing and drying, which has a huge carbon footprint. And our disposal. We will dispose in trash rather than recycling sometimes, hopefully not all of us, but that's definitely an issue for consumers.
Yeah, and a side note, those recycling programs were one of like my first forays into sustainability when like H&M brought out their like bring in your trash bag of clothes and we'll give you 20% off. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And it got me interested. And then I read an expose about how they were just dumping all this stuff in Kenya. And I was like,
okay. I was part of that.
Yeah, it's like you learn one thing, but it was one of those things that like ended up getting me curious and forcing me to like do more research and then learn more about the process. So in a weird way, I do have to thank H&M. Yes. But there's also an excessive use of toxic chemicals, as you mentioned, like throughout the process. When it comes to cotton, conventional cotton seeds are soaked in pesticides actually before they're planted. Like you take the seed, dip it in pesticide, and then put it in the ground. And then the plants are sprayed with chemicals. There's harsh dyes once clothing actually gets to the factory. And then there's dangerous chromium, for example, used in conventional leather tanning.
Yes, so that's all awful. There's also ethical issues. The current fashion production method mistreats humans at a ton of points. So, I mean, starting from like you said, the cotton being planted in the ground, not only are they soaking them in pesticides, but they're also buying, like, there's farmers that will buy conventional cottonseed and then that will drive them into debt. Farmers and their families and communities are exposed to pesticides that can cause lung irritation, rashes, or a lot more serious conditions like cancer, birth defects. It's scary.
Yeah, it's terrifying. Once fabric makes it to the factory, frequently factory workers are underpaid. And in some garment producing countries, the minimum wage is only 20 or 50% of a living wage. So they're not making enough to eat or have safe housing. As mentioned before, factory workers are exposed to harsh dyes and finishing chemicals. Tannery workers can have dangerous exposure. And then on the side that Kaitlynn and I worked on, models are frequently overworked, underpaid, and are too often victims of sexual abuse.
Yeah, way too often. That would be like a whole separate webinar. So all of these things kind of make you want to dress a little bit more sustainably. How can you do that? What does it mean to dress sustainably? It's actually pretty simple and easy. First of all, you're going to make the most out of what you have and reduce your consumption of new pieces. So particularly those that are using conventional processes. And we're not saying you need to like empty out your closet. You don't need to throw away every fast fashion label. Like it's not, you don't need to like hide all of your ASOS stuff just out of shame. If you're wearing something and you like it, keep it. Like the shirt I'm wearing is from Kohl's. Yeah, it's from Kohl's. But if I got rid of it, I would have to replace it with something else because I wear it all the time for everything. So obviously I just kept it. Like, move on with your life. Don't dwell in the past.
Yeah, Yeah, totally. And by keeping it and caring for it, you're not creating an additional carbon footprint. I mean, aside from like your washing. So it makes a lot more sense to just take care of what you have. Yeah, so our main message is like buy less, buy better. Reducing how many new items you buy is a simple way to reduce your impact on the environment and has like just the best side effects. So for example, we're gonna like actually go to the rack here. Visual aids. Okay. Yeah. A couple years ago, I had 4 weddings to go to in one summer. I started hunting for outfits and I was pretty bummed out by what I could afford with what I had budgeted. I'd sort of like picked a number for each wedding. And so I'm taking a snack break. I'm like eating a piece of bread and staring out the window. And I was like, what if I just wore the same dress to every wedding? Would anyone actually care? And then it was fate. Like I sat back down at my computer and the one dress that I had been eyeing as a rental was actually on sale and it was my entire wedding budget. So I just bought it. And it was this. It's this, it was a used Marchesa skirt set. I don't know if you can see, it has like balloon sleeves and a peplum and a skirt. It's a skirt actually, and it has pockets. So I didn't even need to buy a handbag.
Yeah, it's perfect.
It was kind of amazing. And
you're able to like mix and match the top and the bottom and stuff.
Yeah. And then, I mean, I had the benefit of like, now I own it, so I can wear it whenever I want. And it's also a piece that is like so much nicer than I ever thought that I would own. Like I never in a million years did I think I would own Marchesa. So it was just like fate.
That's another like really nice thing about buying less. You can buy better. So like you could buy 5 or 6 cheap polyester blazers to rotate through your work week, or you could buy 2 beautiful wool blazers and then wear the heck out of them. See how I censored myself? That was good. Which do you think will make you feel better about your outfits though? I mean, obviously you want to be comfortable in what you wear. That's going to make you want to wear it. So get something that's well made and feels good. But also buying less will kind of naturally bring up the question of durability. And we're always hearing that people want to make smart choices, choose pieces that are durable and will last. And that's a great attitude to have. And I agree, like well-made clothes are the way to go. But if you're buying fewer pieces, it also means that each piece will get worn more often. So that's the thing, you want it well-made. A well-made garment's gonna last for more wears, but you might end up wearing out it a little bit more, a little quicker. So, I mean, it's possible you might still need like a new blouse to go with that blazer or a new sweater, pair of jeans after about a year or whatever. And that's fine. I mean, it's kind of the circle of life.
Ashlyn, I feel like you're looking at us. Does anyone have a question yet?
There's a couple questions, but I think they'll come to the end. But there was a great comment about, changing up your accessories with the same outfit to like give it a new life. And
oh yeah,
I love that. That's kind of I have like big statement pieces and I just like basically wear the same 6 outfits forever. And I just like change an accessory and people like get distracted by that accessory. And then that's it. So that's my approach.
I think that's brilliant because if you think of like you're wearing a simple navy or black dress, it's hard to tell from here, but you could probably wear that with stilettos and wear it out, or wear it with boots and all of a sudden it's a day dress, or maybe it's a shirt. I don't know. I'm getting like very interested. And then whatever you layer over it, it's something that could probably go from like hanging out with friends, having beers, to like actually a work meeting, depending on if you put a blazer on it. So yeah, that's a really good point. Accessories totally make it.
Yeah. Especially like, I mean, for me, because I don't really wear jewelry, so I usually switch it up with shoes. Because I feel like the same piece will be, like you said, like I'll wear combat boots with a dress and it's going to have a completely different feel than when I wear stilettos. Which I don't do that often because I don't like uncomfortable shoes anymore.
It's like, why?
I wear so many glasses because I, like, after working as a stylist, I've also worked as an optician. So I'm always around glasses and it is my main accessory. It helps me see.
I'm having also some questions. You mentioned, Lauren, a little bit about rental. And so I'm wondering if you'll touch on that later, or if now's a good time to bring up your opinions on rental and subscription. And is that more sustainable? Is that actually sustainable? Any of those kinds of things.
Totally. Let's touch on that now. I'm going to break it into two parts because I think there's rentals for a one-time occasion and then there's rental subscription, and they're kind of a slightly different animal.
Mm-hmm.
I think rentals are amazing, and they have been shown to have a slightly smaller carbon footprint than buying new, even if, say, it's a conventional garment, because frequently that garment's getting worn more. Yes, they do get dry cleaned in between. I have heard that Rent the Runway, as an example, is trying to move over to organic dry cleaning, but I haven't had an update on that recently. So I do know they use a very gentle solution that works for most people, even with sensitive skin. I would say the great thing about rental is that if you're going to wear something once or a handful of times, it's perfect. If you have an occasion that is a slightly weird dress code, like sometimes you have a wedding that's just, summer wedding and you can kind of wear anything. But if you have something that's like festive, smart summer party, that's a little bit hard, and you really want to like nail that look, a rental can be a great way to do that. For example, probably 2 years ago, I was going to a party at the Whitney in New York, and they do a party in June that's very smart, very adventurous. So people come and they're really decked out in very fashion forward outfits. And I really wanted to like make a good impression and everything. So I rented a vintage Paco Rabanne dress, which is chainmail, and then like a coordinating purse. And so that gave me the opportunity to wear something that was like way out of my budget for one night only and really, really have a great time. And I didn't have to like just buy a sensible black dress that I can rewear over and over. So I think that's great. As far as subscription, it depends on how you use it, I think, because there have certainly been times I've done the Rent the Runway subscription and I've gotten a lot of use out of it. And there have been other times where I've done it and I got nothing out of it. And it's just whether they have the clothes that you're looking for at this time. So a lot of their clothes tend to be statement pieces. And when I'm in Madison, Wisconsin, I don't dress as statement-y. I tend to, this is the smartest thing I've worn like all month. I basically wear like cropped sweatshirts. I wish I had one around, but I dress like Diana, like off duty, like bike shorts and like crew neck sweatshirts. So that's like the nicest way to put it. Okay, I digress. But the parts where a subscription can do really well, if you are changing size, I've heard of people who are transitioning, and so they've never dressed as a woman before, and so it's a wonderful way to test out different styles. If you are like post-baby, the one thing is I don't necessarily want to recommend it for pregnant women because I personally probably would be wary of wearing that many dry cleaned clothes if I was pregnant, even though there's no reason like to be worried. I would just personally be concerned. And the last word of caution is rentals work really well for me because I am 5'8" and I have worked as a fit model. Everything fits me off the rack. 100% of clothes fit me when I put them on my body. If you are not the like average height and size, if you're not proportional, you could have more trouble with rentals. So if you are like below 5'4" or if you're 5'10" and up, it could just be tricky if they don't have a long or a petite size. So sorry for rambling, but I hope that had some good info in there.
It answered a lot of the questions, which is great. So yeah, let's keep going, and I'll pop in as great questions come on.
Yeah, I think it's more fun if you just like interrupt us.
Yep, great, I'll do it.
Okay, we're getting to my favorite section, which is making the most of what you have, because I think everyone's closet is like a secret gold mine. There's pieces in there that you love, you bought for some reason, but you're not really wearing them. And so this is our chance to like get creative with why aren't you wearing those pieces and how can we get more use out of them?
Yeah, I'm sure you have pieces in there that you don't wear that regularly, but you bought them at some point because they seemed useful or they were absolutely beautiful and you couldn't not. So there's a chance that there's still some life in those like underutilized pieces. So we're going to figure this out. For example, I'm going to go grab it. I have a tulle wrap skirt that I couldn't get myself to get rid of, but then I figured out that I could just wrap it around bodysuits and cat suits, and then I just go wherever I have to go, like the mall or the grocery store, and I look like a princess.
I love that skirt.
Yeah, it like got definitely a second life for sure.
I have a visitor. I see a little nose popping in here. We might have a guest. Yeah, and I think you make a great point that the trick is to think in terms of an outfit, not in terms of a garment. So this is how we ended up with all these overstuffed closets with pieces that don't work together. It's because we are encouraged to shop mindlessly and buy stuff as it catches our eye. So we pass a mannequin in the mall and we're like, wow, what a gorgeous palm tree print bomber jacket. And so you buy that without thinking of what it goes with and how to wear it.
Right. So you kind of need to like flip your thinking around. Don't just find a piece and be like, whatever, I'll try to make it fit. Make sure you're starting the process in your closet. So think about occasions you'll be dressing for in like the upcoming week or two. Like it doesn't have to be overwhelming. You don't need to dress for the year.
Yeah, thinking about it in terms of like vacation mode, because a lot of people find it really easy to pack a capsule for a 2-week trip. And then when they look at their own closet, they're totally overwhelmed. But basically, we've figured out that almost every occasion fits into 3 categories: work, working out, or going out. So work would be, or errands, if you're someone who is like a stay-at-home mom. Think about the exact outfits that you want to wear for those occasions and be realistic. So if your office is business casual, yes, we all want to wear like an amazing like head to toe red suit, but maybe that's not the most realistic. So think of what maybe your best self wears, the outfits that you feel the best about yourself in, and then try to build from there.
So like what pieces do you need to make the outfit? Do you have everything you already need in your closet? Are there a couple more pieces you still need to source? I mean, what I always do is start a shopping list in my phone so that when I am going thrifting, I can remember like what I've been thinking I need, and then I'll search specifically for that piece.
Yeah, totally. I have the same thing. And get smart about alterations, because it's fun to go shopping first, but we told you that we were going to start in your closet. So that's what we're going to talk about first.
So, all right, let's say your work outfit was a silk blouse, tailored pants, and a lightweight wool blazer, and that you have everything but the blouse. What else in your closet could you make work? Do you have any tunics that you could just tuck in? Do you have any like rarely used dresses that you could crop to blouse length? Lightweight sweater that could be like a good stand-in. Try to get creative first and try on a couple of pieces that you think could do the trick. You won't know it until you try it on and actually see it on yourself.
Yes, I love that, because I feel like trying it on is just totally different. And sometimes things that I think will work are not.
I have the worst ideas, like 70% of the time. I'll be like, oh yeah, this is going to be cool. And then I dress myself in my head, and then I don't allow time to like dress before this event. And then I realize that this outfit doesn't work, and I'm like, then I just go back to the same things I always wear. So it's.
Yeah. I feel like there's a myth that like stylists are like batting 1,000, and we're not. Like it's just that we're like those IT guys who are just willing to like try every computer code before giving up. Like we're like, okay, let's try every single shirt with every single pants. Yeah. So once you've looked at all the options in your closet, say you find like a dress that you can crop, think about how you can modify pieces in your closet to fit this need that you've identified. So step 1, we're identifying the need, and step 2, we're trying to fill it. And so, for example, I have a client who does circus classes, which are very popular in Madison, and they're so fun, and I strongly recommend them. And when I first met her, she was wearing pretty basic outfits to her classes, like leggings and tank tops. And she mentioned that a lot of people in her class had really cool style and that she wanted to dress more adventurously as well. So she showed me a bunch of inspo images and they were really fun. They were like those layered looks for dancers where you're seeing leggings with leg warmers, longer tank tops with like a cropped tight sweater over it, that kind of thing. And it was really clear that she sort of wanted to play with length and layering and proportions. So we went through her closet and I managed to find a long sleeve fitted tee, an Under Armour shirt that she had gotten for free at a swap. So there was like zero concern. This was like an only upside situation. So I cropped it to like this length and it created like a really cute little warm-up top that she could wear to class.
Super cute. Yeah, so I mean, altering your pieces can be a great way to find a hidden gem, but a little bit of practical altering advice, because not all of us were on-set tailors. So some of us have to actually pay for alterations. They do vary a lot in price. So they can vary from like $10 to over $60, kind of depending on the complexity. And you can always get a quote before committing to doing an alteration. Just make sure you call your local tailor and ask like, oh, hey, I have this dress that I'm planning on cropping into a blouse. How much do you charge? Before you alter, think about why you're not wearing the piece as well, though. Because I mean, if your pants are itchy, hemming them is not gonna fix the itch. Like if they're too long, hemming them's great, but make sure you know why you're not wearing something before you decide to change it.
Yeah, absolutely. And once you know how much that alteration is going to cost, think about the finished garment. Try to picture yourself in it and ask yourself, would I pay $20 for those hemmed pants? And what I'm trying to say is don't waste your time and money altering like cheap polyester shit from Forever 21. That ship has sailed. Like it's still going to look like garbage afterwards. Like that's not the stuff to spend your money on.
Yep.
And also just like a PSA from a tailor, which is me, we're not judging your body. We're just looking at you. And a lot of us have strong nasolabial folds because aging is, or I'm not allowed to curse here, probably. Okay, so, but we do know what your measurements are from looking at you. It is our job and we have eyes. So just don't worry about it. It's really a very much zero judgment zone.
Yeah, because it can feel like very vulnerable.
It's
scary for the rest of us.
I'm thinking about when I had my wedding dress altered and I was a bridal consultant at the time. So I'm standing in my dress in front of all the women I work with. And these like older women are like pinching the fabric around my boobs, like judging the alterations that I've made and then judging the alterations that other women have made to my dress and like being like, oh, could you take it in a little more? I'm like, yeah. So I feel you guys. It's hard.
Okay, think about other pieces other than wedding dresses because you don't wear those as often, probably. Yeah. Like pants. You can shorten pants to like literally any length. You can make them an ankle. For me, I have to make like every pair of jeans an ankle pair of jeans because my inseam's really long and it's terrible trying to find something that fits. You could do like capri length, knee length, or even just like kind of a longer short, mid-thigh, or you could do short shorts. Just like make sure you're very conscious of where the pockets are at because you don't want to have to shorten them or like even remove the pockets. It just seems creepy. You don't want them to show when you're cropping them. So, and then like shirts can also be cropped. I know this from experience, especially this time right now, everybody's making masks. The amount of crop tops that I now have is insane. I've been cropping like every t-shirt, then I'm like, kind of cute. It get a lot more like life out of my items. So you can crop those to any length too, like just kind of a longer hip or a low waist. I usually do high waist because it shows that I have a waist kind of. But you know, go with whatever works for your body.
Yeah, totally. Then you get like your matching mask with your crop top.
Yeah.
I love that. That's so smart.
Very exciting. It's pretty fun.
I would say the number one most common alteration that I do to my own garments and that I did on set as a tailor is actually slimming the sleeve of a blouse or a sweater or a blazer. And the reason is that vintage pieces are cut with fuller sleeves most of the time and lower arm size. You can actually see on the shirt that I'm wearing, because it is vintage and unaltered. I'll put this guy down. Sorry, I keep wanting to pick up the mic and just bad habits. But you can see like how much bigger this is compared to like a shirt you might buy at Banana Republic. So by slimming the sleeve, you tend to make vintage pieces look more modern, but of course they still have fun details like shoulder pads and silly fabrics that will like, you know, set that vintage tone. So the other reason I love it is slimming a sleeve adds a hint of a body line. So if you also live in a cold place, like I live in Wisconsin, and you have to wear a lot of layers in winter, when you have that nice, beautiful, slim sleeve, it's really going to make you look elegant and add a little bit of movement to your outfit. So definitely recommend that. Some other PSAs, most garments should only be altered 1 to 2 sizes before you have to start introducing design changes. So if you picture like a princess seam that's like running along your bust line, if it's 3 or 4 sizes too big, it's going to start moving to the side when you take it in at the sides. So that's not to say that you can't wear it oversized, but just to know if you're going to take something in, you really can't take it in that much. Doesn't mean it's impossible. If you're really determined, it will just be more expensive because you're talking about reconstructing a garment. Mm-hmm. And then my favorite topic is blazers. I'm like such a blazer gremlin. If you want to alter a blazer, make sure it fits the way you want it in the shoulder. It doesn't have to fit like to the shoulder line. If you want to wear it oversized, that's your business. But make sure that the shoulder fits the way that you intend it to before you start altering, because altering shoulders is just a bear. And the truth is that most tailors can't do it well. So a lot of times it will end up butchering the garment, and it will cost you a lot of money, and you're not going to be happy with the results. So don't do it. I'm just going to save you $60 right there. Just don't. And the other thing is, if the buttons on the cuff of your blazer are real, which is a good sign, that means that it's a nice blazer, you're only going to be able to change the sleeve length by pulling it up. So that tends to be $60 and up, $75 in Manhattan probably. So this is an alteration that would likely be necessary if you're petite and you need a shorter sleeve length and you weren't able to get a petite blazer because they're super hard to find. So it's worth doing, but just, keep that in the back of your mind.
Yeah. Lauren is very passionate about blazers. What about embellishments? Because I love doing embellishments. You can do things like adding patches, it's a fun craft. Embroidery, which is something that I'm learning to do. I have like holes in my thumbs everywhere right now. But my plan is to like darn some clothes that have holes in them and then embroider over that. We'll see where we get with that. But just kind of like covering what's wrong can sometimes work. If it's just like a tiny little moth hole in a t-shirt, you can fix it.
Yeah, and you're totally reducing the carbon footprint by getting more wears out of it. That's super smart. Mm-hmm. Another change you can make is by dyeing it. So if your garment is made from natural fibers, it can be dyed. And the super fun thing about dyeing garments is that you have a lot of the supplies at home. So it's perfect for quarantine. It is like a great quarantine craft. All you need is water, a really big pot, some vinegar. I would recommend white vinegar because I don't know what will happen if you use other kinds of vinegar, and salt. And then the dyeing agents are all sorts of vegetables. Yellow onions make a really beautiful mustardy color. Red onions make this sort of like muted purpley color. Walnuts make this sort of purpley brown. Turmeric is like a bright yellow. I know I'm forgetting one. Avocados. Yeah, avocados make the prettiest stuff. And before you do it, am I going into your stuff?
No, you're totally fine. Keep going.
There's tons of swatches on the internet. So whenever I take on a dyeing project, different fabrics take dye differently. Silk and wool take it like crazy. They just like suck it up and then hang on to it. So if you have silk, definitely try stuff like your wedding dress we should talk about. Cotton, a lot of things will wash out after the first like proper laundering. So if you dye like a silk cami and a cotton tee with beats, they'll both look hot pink at first. And then after you wash them, the silk cami will still be pink. And then the cotton tee will be like a very muted pink. So yeah, just like a fun thing to try though.
Yeah. If you're not feeling the crafts, you can also shop secondhand and vintage, which is great for the environment, because you're not creating something entirely new. Also, you can do it from home, which is my favorite thing. So there's thrift stores, there's consignment shops, there's vintage stores popping up everywhere, but there's also like online consignment shops. So ThreadUp and The RealReal for sure. Definitely. I'm usually on ThreadUp just because I'm more comfortable with the layout, but they're both great. The user experience is almost the same as shopping online. Just keep in mind that in order to make your pieces a little less expensive, they're not spending time steaming those clothes or styling them. So they're just popping them on a mannequin, taking one picture in the front, one in the back. You're not getting a ton of details. So it's not going to look as beautiful. So, I mean, just kind of keep an eye out. The RealReal definitely has a little bit more like high-end stuff, like Nordstrom, Neiman Marcus. ThreadUp, you can get things that are from like Target or Old Navy, and then you can still get things like Gucci, Chanel. I usually get all my Rebecca Taylor stuff there because she's like mid-range expensive, and you can look for something that has new tags. Like new with tags, if you're kind of skittish about shopping secondhand still. That's how I started. I was like, what's brand new and nobody's really worn it? I'll try that.
I love that. I am not squeamish. I'm like, if it can be disinfected, it's fair game. That's my rule.
Mm-hmm. We have a question kind of about the vintage sellers and the apps in relation to sustainability. So someone is curious about, thrifting locally versus using online thrift stores and like shipping costs and like all that kind of stuff. What are your thoughts on these types of apps or vintage sellers? Are they actually sustainable? Are they just like the better option? Would love to just hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely the better option because you're not going through the entire process of making an entirely new garment. I say online just because we're all stuck at home right now. So that's kind of our only option. Usually, like Lauren and I both love to shop local. We have a couple of really great vintage shops by us, so we're lucky in that sense. But you gotta like explore your neighborhood and kind of see what's around. That's gonna be your most sustainable option because you're not factoring in the carbon footprint of delivery. So I don't know, do you have anything to add, Lauren?
Yeah, I would say I totally agree with that. And our first line of defense is always like shop local. The thing with thrifting though is sometimes you do have a timeline that you need something by, like say you have a job interview and you need a suit. And so you go to your local thrift store and they don't have exactly what you need, or it's not your size, or it's not close enough. That's when going online is really fantastic because it just opens up so much more. And it's just a lot more accessible. So, I mean, being in Madison, we have very limited clothing in the thrift shops in that it tends to, whatever's in the thrift store, I'm trying to find a nice way to say this, reflects what people are wearing. So people around here are very casual and budget conscious. And so that is the clothing that's coming across in the thrift stores. So if you want clothing that is designer, you're probably going to have to go online.
Mm-hmm. And if you're going to be doing that, shopping secondhand in person, make sure you bring your shopping list. Because if you do have enough time to find the right thing, you should spend the time finding the right thing. Don't just like buy the first thing that's kind of close to it if it's not perfect. So always have that shopping list. It's really easy to get distracted in vintage stores, especially. So I usually get stuck at the furniture, but I can really get stuck anywhere. Just remember what outfit needs you're trying to fulfill, and you don't need an orange armchair.
Yeah. We have a great question. Like,
I feel very attacked.
Is it possible to thrift too much?
I just want to point out that Kaitlynn is talking about my orange armchair.
I don't need an orange armchair.
I feel very attacked right now. I got this at St. Vinny's for $5 and Allison helped me carry it home.
I have an orange armchair at my apartment too.
I don't have the space for an orange armchair. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm like offending everyone now.
Just so triggered.
Another gal has 2 armchairs. So, Kaitlynn, it seems like you're outnumbered by armchairs.
I stand corrected. You might need an orange armchair.
Oh my God, there's another orange armchair in the comments.
Yeah, I'm feeling
This is great.
Like a real big jerk right now.
All good. You're just missing out.
Can you
Jesus, Kaitlynn.
Can we thrift too much?
Yeah. Is that in relation to sustainability, is there a too much limit?
Do you want to take it?
I mean, personally, I feel like not necessarily. If once you're done with the item, you're disposing of it properly. So if you're going to be just like, yeah, I mean, you can thrift too much, because if you're just going to be like hoarding different pairs of like jeans that don't even fit you, and then you end up giving them to H&M and it just ends up like dumped on people in Kenya, then that's not great. So it's the same as shopping conventionally. Be responsible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I mean, also, like, I think thrift shopping is a really good tool, because a lot of us are coming from shopping conventionally, and like Kaitlynn and I shopped fast fashion and had huge closets up until pretty recently, up until 3 years ago or whatever. So it really wasn't that long ago. And I think that thrifting is a great tool, where if you are someone who gets a rush from shopping, or if you are someone who like just likes to have some new things, and you get tired of what you have, it's a tool that you can use to inject new stuff into your wardrobe and get a little rush. And I think of it's like methadone. Like, it's really, if you use it in a proper way, it's good for you.
It's better to get you off the conventional shopping.
Yes.
Knowing that we have a time check of about 15 minutes, I wanted to just bring up a couple of themes that I'm seeing, so you can kind of guide the rest of your time. We have great questions about sustainable ways for caring for clothes. I know you talked a lot about altering, but I wonder, Lauren, if you have tips on that. And then shopping new sustainable brands, avoiding greenwashing, knowing which brands are your favorites or how you vet brands, and then people who are in extended sizing or other sizing, what are some tips for them in this space? So and then lastly, using your wardrobe as a climate advocate and pushing away from some of the minimalism trends of sustainable fashion. How do we work with that? So those are some things I'm seeing. Just wanted to.
Good questions, everyone.
Yeah.
Questions. I want to take the washing one.
Yeah, do it.
So caring for your clothes, not just like altering or repairing when you can. The 40%, I think, is what I read, of the carbon footprint of clothes comes from how you're caring for it. So you want to make sure that you're washing your clothes on cold, for sure. It's going to reduce your energy usage by 90%, according to the EPA. It can also save you money. So even $40-$50 a year on your electric bill, it's great. But also you may need to wash some stuff on hot. Like right now in the age of the virus, you kind of need to wash your things a little bit more often than you would. Because normally I would say we were washing our clothes way too often. You're wearing them out. You can get a few wears out of a piece. I mean, sometimes you only wear it for a few hours. So definitely make sure that you're washing on cold when you can. And then make sure you're wearing them as much as you can before you're actually washing. So that's going to extend the life of your clothes, and it's going to be better for the environment.
I can definitely follow up in the email. There's a cool graphic that shows how many wears you can get out of a pair of jeans or a shirt or something. before you have to wash it, or the recommended washing, which is a lot longer than we all ever expect. So I'll search for that and share it with everyone here.
There's a very simple time-honored test called the sniff test. And I would just, because it varies per climate, you know, you could say that like a button down is 5 wears, but in Florida it's 1. And in Wisconsin it's 8, you know, that kind of thing. Yes, sniff test. I will field the extended sizing and how to find good brands question. I saw a comment come up with Shop Berries, which is a fantastic vintage reseller on Instagram who has super, super cute stuff in extended sizes. I also love them. My best friend is a size 18, and so I'm always looking for stuff for her. And so I feel you. I understand how hard it is. Like I've tried to shop for different items in extended sizing, and I'm starting to like understand just how stupidly hard it is.
Yeah.
And unnecessarily hard. So I made a list of sustainable brands for extended sizing on my website. So if you go to laurenengelke.com, and then I believe it's under the women tab, you'll be able to see curvy brands. So that's just an easy one. I think there's like 50 sustainable brands on that list. When I look for sustainable brands, the hard part is there's so many different criteria that make something sustainable, right? Like we were talking about, it starts at the beginning of like how the fabric is grown and like how everyone's treated along the way. And not all of this stuff can you check for on a label. So here's what you can do as a consumer. You can always check a company's website, because the good thing is a lot of sustainable brands are doing the more expensive thing, and so they want to brag about it. So that's great. So you're looking for 2 things really. Look for natural fibers, so cotton, wool, hemp, linen, organic when possible, but really cotton is the dirty one. So you don't need organic everything, but probably organic cotton is important. Or recycled or upcycled fabrics. Dead stock is sometimes controversial because some people believe that like maybe brands shouldn't be producing extra fabric to begin with, but at the moment, dead stock is considered a sustainable option. So those are good materials. And then I look for production in either a low-risk country or with fair trade like conditions. So usually if a company is using like a fair trade factory, they will say that, or they'll say that they're paying their workers fair wages. Until there's more regulation of the industry, this is kind of like all we can hope for. But like I said, on my website, there's hundreds of recommended brands. And if you have a question, you can always like DM me or comment on Instagram, and I'll be able to try to point you in the right direction. Low risk countries, I would say this with a caveat, usually made in USA or made in the EU is like kind of a heads up that something is made under slightly more ethical conditions, but it can also mean the opposite. Like there are sweatshops in LA and there are great factories in China. So it's definitely something you have to take with a grain of salt. But if you're seeing things like fair trade or GOTS, those are indicators that a factory has really good conditions. Greenwashing is tricky, but I would say if your warning bell is going off, then that's probably greenwashing. Like if you're looking and you feel like a company is exaggerating, maybe not exaggerating, but talking a lot about one thing and you're like, well, you know, you're talking a lot about making bags with plastic bottles, but you don't actually say that the bottles are post-consumer. Like that's weird. If anything triggers your like, that's weird, then I would probably avoid that or do a little more research to see if they just like phrased it awkwardly.
Yeah, and if they don't have the information on their website, ask them. They should, if they're gonna be like not greenwashing, they should be transparent about all of the ways that they're trying to help the environment.
Totally. Yeah. If they're going to that trouble, they will answer your questions. I'm the annoying Karen who like emails people all the time. And like the honest companies will get back to you. We have one more paragraph about end of life. So I'll just like go through that real quick.
Yeah.
So we talked about, Kaitlynn brought up like everything shopping secondhand is sustainable as long as you're disposing of things properly at the end of life. The interesting thing about clothing is that there's so much more life in a garment than you would imagine. And I just found this, I've been making masks and I made them out of my husband's dress shirts. And so I had this pile of dress shirts that I was going to send to a fabric recycler because I was like, the cuffs are gross. Like, they're all worn out. The collars were worn out. And then this quarantine happened and I'm looking around for 100% cotton woven fabric to make masks out of. And I was like, oh man, this pile of dress shirts. And as soon as I cut the collar and cuffs off, I've got all of this fabric that I can now make stuff out of. So what I'm trying to say is like, recycling is kind of a last resort. Here's everything else you can do with a piece of clothing. Mm-hmm. You can sell it. I'll start with what's going to make you the most money and be the hardest. You can sell it. eBay, Depop, Poshmark, they all kind of work the same way. We know the drill. You take photos, you put them up. It's more work, but if you have something like KP, you bought like a really gorgeous designer jacket recently. That's a great item that you can probably recoup money on when you sell it. Yep. If you choose to sell it. Consigning will make less money, but if you are doing a major closet clean out, it's much easier. Like I have done closet clean outs with people I care about and filled up entire contractor bags and then taped them up, put a label on it and sent it to ThredUp, like 30 pounds of clothing at once, which is embarrassing, but they took it. You can donate to your local thrift store. Anything that you send to the thrift store should be clean and it should be repaired. So if it has holes in it, if it's ripped, that's probably not a good candidate. And then your last option is recycling via TerraCycle or a company like 4 Days, which is a really great company that will take back your used clothes, chew them up, and make them into new baby t-shirts. Yeah.
And then also I wanted to add clothing swaps because there are a lot of gems in your friends' closets or your family's closets that they're not wearing that you could be wearing, or vice versa. So if you like set up something, doesn't necessarily have to be like with only your friends. You can set up something for your community. Like I live in an apartment building. So my situation was like I contacted the head office to see if I could just have something set up in our common area and then people could just bring their stuff in. Anything that didn't get taken was just donated. But yeah, I mean, swapping is super fun.
Yeah, Kaitlynn peer pressured me into having a swap maybe 6 months ago, and it was amazing. And the two things that I learned were invite basically everyone you know, because you never know who's going to make it, regardless of age and regardless of size. And everybody was swapping with everyone else. We had people from like 25 to 75 years old, from extra small to probably 2X. And it was not the people that I thought would be swapping who were always swapping. Like a lot of clothes are sort of a free size, and everybody went home with new stuff that they liked.
Yeah. Cool. Adopt, don't shop. Okay, did we have any other questions?
I think you touched a little bit on like where to donate. So someone was thinking like maybe H&M isn't the best place to donate, but like the Goodwills, the Plato's Closets, those are all good places. Do you have any other recommendations on places to donate?
You can contact like your local homeless shelters, anything where they're giving clothing to people in need. I usually just go with Goodwill because it's nearby, but there's also St. Vinny's, which is specifically more in the Midwest, and like Salvation Army. You kind of have to like also look into how these places like line up with your beliefs too, before you decide where you're going to be sending your clothes.
And then I sort of want to end on kind of a fun note. Lauren, we've been looking at your gorgeous closet behind us. We would love to just get some like top styling, like staple pieces in your wardrobe. Like what are your recommendations on like building a closet that has, that like is both personal to you, but also is, you know, your own staple pieces?
Yeah. First thing is look at what you are wearing every day. I mean, you can look at bloggers for inspiration. I think that's great, but take selfies in the mirror every single day and then look back at those selfies after a week and think, what could I do to like upgrade this outfit a little bit? And I do it to myself where I'm like, I could always accessorize more than I do. Um, or when you look at something, you're like, this outfit is really close, but if I updated the jeans, it would look very this season rather than wearing jeans that are, 5 years out of date, that kind of thing. The other thing I would recommend is as stuff wears out, try to replace it with like the nicest version that is comfortable with your budget. So if you know that you're wearing V-neck sweaters every day, as they wear out and you need new ones, instead of just going right back to the same banana stuff that you've been wearing or that I wear all the time, look for a used Akitmont one from Poshmark. Like bump everything up a little bit and you'll be surprised after a year, you will be looking pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Good quality. Mm-hmm.
All right. I think that's it for questions. Are there any other things that you want to leave folks with? I guess my question would be, what is maybe your hope for the future of our fashion industry, and one thing that we can all do right now to help be an advocate for changes in the industry?
Well, so I talk about this all the time, but like having the kind of supply and demand, if we're demanding more ethical and sustainable options from brands, they're going to have to eventually get there. And also limiting the demand. So by not going and shopping and buying a bunch of crap that you don't need, you're also kind of showing them that there's not a need for all of these, like the same thing. So my main thing is go to your closet first, stick with what you have, don't buy new things unless you have to. Mm-hmm. And if you do, then do it sustainably if you can.
Yeah.
I love that. I think my hope for the future is I would like to see more waste used as an input. So I'm really fascinated by people who are using things like hotel linens, sheets, saris, kimonos, and creating new gorgeous garments that will have a whole new life before they're ever recycled. So I'm really interested in putting my dollars towards spending on garments like that.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. Well, thank you so much. I want to put a shameless plug in for our next session at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. That's going to dig into conscious design. So we're going to meet with some local designers, talk about fair trade. So if anyone is interested in talking a little bit more about when you're shopping new brands, what should you be asking for, all of those kinds of things. And so this was a beautiful segue to like thinking about what we already have and really styling ourselves sustainable. So thank you so much for everything. And please follow Lauren and Kaitlynn and their podcast. It's amazing. And I'll be sure to send out links and a recording to this later in the week. So thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Take
Thanks
care.
for coming, guys.
Yay.